All right, here we're solving what's called a radical equation. That's what this symbol is called. A lot of times we call it a square root, and in this case it is a square root. So this symbol here is called a radical. If there's no number written out here as the index, then it is a square root. It's a power of 2. If, however, you have a radical with, for example, a 3, that's a 1/3 root or a cube root. Okay, so these are radical equations. I'm going to start by always getting the radical by itself on one side, and everything that's not underneath a radical goes on the other side. They've already done that for us in this problem. The 4 is the only thing that's not underneath the square root or radical, and it's over here, and everything on this side is underneath. My next step is to use my opposites to kind of peel back the layers. So this square root, the opposite of a square root is to square. So I'm going to square both sides of the equation. The square will cancel the square root, and I'm left with just 10 minus x on this side. And 4 squared, or 4 times 4, is 16. Now we want to get x by itself. So I'm going to subtract, it's a positive 10, I'm going to subtract 10 from both sides. That gives me negative x equals 6. I can't leave it as negative x, I wanted to solve for x. So I'm going to divide by -1 to cancel that negative, and I get x equals -6. Now I want to circle that answer, but there's something else about square root equations, and that's you have to check your answers. It's always a good idea to check your answers just to make sure you're right. But on square root equations, you could have done every single step correctly and still get something that doesn't work in the original equation. To be a solution, it has to work in the original equation. So I write down the original equation and I substitute my answer back in. So I got -6, so I'm going to leave everything as it was, but I'm going to replace this negative with this x with a -6. So it was 10 minus, and then my x is -6. And I'm checking to see if that is equal to 4 or not, just to see if the two sides are equal. All right, minus and negative is a plus, so I have 10 plus 6 is 16. The square root of 16 is 4. So yes, this is a correct solution, and I can go ahead and circle that as my answer. If I had gotten a different number on this side, like 2 or 5, then I would know it's not correct, and I would not have any solution at all because that was my only one and it did not work. In this case it did work, so my answer is just x equals -6.